Inside the fake royal vault, the truth about crown jewels. What if I told you that almost none of the dazzling tiaras you've seen on queens and princesses actually belong to them? No vault, no inheritance, no family treasury quietly passed down for generations. Just borrowed jewels. A queen steps out in millions of dollars of diamonds. The world gasps. The headlines write themselves. And days later, that same tiara is back in a jewellery house archive waiting for its next borrower. Sometimes that next borrower isn't even royal at all. A burlesque performer, a Chinese actress, a bride with no royal blood whatsoever. Tonight we're pulling back the curtain on 5 of the most jaw-dropping crown jewel moments in modern royal history. And every single one of them has the same secret hiding underneath the sparkle. A monarchy with no state vault. A dynasty that quietly sold off everything just to keep the illusion alive. A princess locked out of her own family's jewels by nothing but rank. And a bride from a fallen empire, handed 11 tiaras like a tasting menu, choosing one that was never actually hers to keep. By the end of this video, you'll never look at a royal tiara the same way again, so stick around, because the real story behind the crown is far more fascinating than the crown itself. Queen Rania's Boucheron Emerald Tiara. Unlike European monarchies, the Hashemite family holds no official state collection of crown jewels. What looks like a royal treasury is really a patchwork of privately owned pieces, borrowed, swapped, and passed around. The Queen Alia Cartier tiara isn't even Rania's. It belongs to her sister-in-law, Princess Haya. So how does Rania keep her look so varied? Through loans. She and the Hashemite court regularly arrange temporary borrowing agreements and promotional partnerships with elite jewellery houses like Boucheron and Fred Paris, giving her a striking avant-garde edge at high-profile events. In 2003 alone, this strategy played out twice, at a state banquet in Sweden hosted by King Carl XVI Gustaf and Queen Sylvia, and during a Vanity Fair editorial shoot. Both times she turned to Boucheron. The piece itself, the Emerald Ivy Tiara, was created that same year by Solange Zagri Partridge, emeralds set in black gold, reimagined from an 1890 ivy necklace buried in Boucheron's archives. Each stone was hand-picked for matching colour, with the larger dewdrop emeralds hung on trembling metal wires, a nod to early 1900s jewellery techniques. But here's the twist that exposes the whole illusion. It was never hers to keep. No vault, no ownership, just a loan with an expiration date. The moment the camera stopped, the tiara flew back to France. Proof surfaced again in 2017, when Dieter von Teese, not the Queen, wore it at Chateau Marmont for an event marking Boucheron's appearance in C Magazine's March 2007 fashion feature, confirming the piece had simply moved on to its next borrower. One year a queen's crown, the next a costume for a burlesque icon. That's the real story behind the sparkle. The Countess of Paris's Chaumet Curvilinear tiara. Here's a story that cuts even deeper than Rania's. This isn't about a monarchy that never had crown jewels. It's about one that had them, lost them, and had to fake it till the very end. Isabel of Orléans-Braganza, the French-born Brazilian princess, spent over 60 years as consort to the head of the House of Orléans, France's pretender royal line. She raised 11 children, all married into Europe's grandest houses, and for decades she reigned at the absolute summit of aristocratic society. She once owned a real vault, genuine, personal, dazzling. But by the twilight of her life, that vault was empty. What happened? Extravagant living, brutal family feuds, and 11 children's worth of expenses finally caught up with the House of Orléans. The family sold off virtually everything: land, jewels, heirlooms, just to keep up the appearance of regal a little longer. By 1991, when her grandson Duke Philip of Württemberg threw his lavish royal wedding ball, the Countess of Paris owned no grand tiara of her own. So Maison Chaumet quietly stepped in, offering a loan from their private archival collection, the Curvilinear tiara. She wore it with such grace that it became the visual signature of her final years, a glittering stand-in for the crown jewels she'd long since lost. Nobody watching would have guessed the truth. Designed around 1930 by Joseph Chaumet, the tiara is a study in restrained opulence. Gold and silver, large Baroque pearls set within diamond scrollwork. And the loan didn't end with her. In 2015, Chaumet lent the same tiara to Chinese actress Angela Babi for her wedding to Huang Xiaoming, reportedly the most expensive wedding in Chinese history, thrusting a piece once worn by real European nobility into the heart of modern pop culture. Today, the Curvilinear tiara lives at Chaumet's historic flagship store, occasionally surfacing at exhibitions worldwide. One woman wore it to disguise a fallen fortune. Another wore it to broadcast one. Same tiara, same illusion, just a different kind of borrowed crown. Bulgari modern diamond fringe tiara. The rule for royals who don't have to play by the rules. Here's where the pattern gets interesting. Sometimes it's not about a family with no jewels or a fortune lost, it's about hierarchy. Some royals simply aren't allowed near the good stuff. At the 2015 royal wedding of Prince Carl Philip of Sweden and Sofia Hellqvist, Princess Tatiana of Greece and Denmark skipped her own family's vault entirely and showed up to the Stockholm Palace Gala in the Bulgari modern diamond fringe tiara. Why not wear something Greek? Because the crown jewel tier pieces, like the Greek emerald parure or the ruby olive wreath, are locked to rank. They're reserved strictly for the matriarch, Queen Anne-Marie, or for Crown Princess Marie Chantal, wife of the head of the house. Tatiana, married into the family but not at its top, doesn't get access. But here's the upside of not being a reigning figure. She also doesn't carry the weight of state representation. No political optics, no strict media rules binding a sitting queen. That freedom is exactly what led her to turn to Bulgari instead. The Bulgari modern diamond fringe tiara is owned outright by Bulgari's own high jewellery collection. A commercial piece, not an heirloom. Created in the early 2000s, it's pure modern geometry, alternating rows of diamond fringe cascading off a solid diamond band. Because it belongs to Bulgari and not a monarchy, it circulates freely, loaned non-reigning royals whenever the occasion calls for serious sparkle. That circulation continued in August 2016, when German noblewoman Franziska Balzer wore it for her wedding to Prince Maximilian of Sayn-Wittgenstein-Berleburg. The connection ran through the groom's own sister, Princess Marie-Louise Lily of Sayn-Wittgenstein-Berleburg, an official Bulgari brand ambassador who arranged the loan herself. Different tiara, different reason for borrowing. But the same underlying truth keeps surfacing. Even among royals, very few actually own what they wear. Here's the piece, with one factual correction at the end, since my research shows she was shown the tiara but ultimately chose a different Chaumet piece. The Chaumet Talhouët tiara. The 1985 occasion was an official state visit to the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, a court famous for one of Europe's most staggering historic jewellery collections. State banquet protocol demands that visiting royals match their host's level of formality, and Queen Noor's personal collection, while beautiful, didn't quite fit that heavy, antique European aesthetic. The Belle Époque Talhouët tiara was the perfect diplomatic solution. Noor's signature piece was the diamond sunburst tiara, a gift from King Hussein that appeared in nearly every major portrait and public event of her reign. That near-constant repetition is exactly why the Chaumet loan mattered. It let her step into a completely different aesthetic for one night, without Jordan spending state funds on a piece she'd likely wear only once. The tiara itself is a Belle Époque diamond scroll design, floral and vine motifs, large brilliants anchoring each scroll, and a striking cushion-cut diamond crowning the top. Chaumet created it in 1908 for the Marquis de Talhouët, around the time his only daughter, Yvonne de Talhouët-Roy, married the Marquis de Nicolet. Their son, Count René de Nicolet, likely inherited both the family seat at Château de Lude and the tiara itself until Chaumet reacquired the piece in 1981. Just 4 years later, in 1985, Chaumet loaned it to Queen Noor for that single Luxembourg state banquet. When the evening ended, so did the tiara's time in the public eye. It returned directly to Chaumet's tightly guarded historical archive, where it has remained ever since. In fact, the Talhouët tiara nearly returned to the spotlight in 2021, when Chaumet brought it out for a grand Russian wedding, not quite. That brings us to our last tiara. The Chaumet Lacis tiara. The wedding of Grand Duke George Mikhailovich of Russia and Victoria Romanovna Betterini held in 2021 at St. Isaac's Cathedral in St. Petersburg, marked something historic in itself, the first major Romanov royal wedding held in that city since the 1917 Russian Revolution. But behind the ceremony lies a quieter story about what it means to borrow a legacy when you no longer own one. Ahead of the wedding, Chaumet presented exactly 11 tiaras to Rebecca Betterini, soon to be Princess Victoria Romanovna, for a private selection at the Maison's historic headquarters on Place Vendôme in Paris. The reason for the loan wasn't traditional convenience, it was necessity. The modern Romanov house holds almost nothing of its former imperial vaults. Victoria's mother-in-law, Grand Duchess Maria Vladimirovna, head of the House of Romanov, owns only a handful of original tiaras today, a stark contrast to the dynasty's once legendary jewel collection, largely lost to revolution and exile. The house served as official jeweller to Napoleon and Empress Josephine, built its reputation crafting tiaras for kings and empresses across Europe, and counted the Romanovs themselves among its historic clientele. So when Victoria arrived to choose her piece, she wasn't just picking a tiara, she was reconnecting with a relationship between her husband's family and this jeweller that stretched back over a century. As she put it herself, she wanted something that had never been worn before. She found it in the Lacis tiara, a modern masterpiece anchored by two flawless diamonds, a 5.02 carat oval and a 2.21 carat pear shape, surrounded by 438 pavé diamonds for a total exceeding 27 carats. Its silhouette draws from the traditional Russian kokoshnik headdress, while its raised, billowing form nods to the sails of the St. Petersburg naval base, where her husband, Grand Duke George, serves. The tiara is built using Chaumet's signature fil couteau, or knife-edge, technique. That detail wasn't incidental. Victoria chose it deliberately as a tribute to George's great-great-grandmother, Grand Duchess Maria Pavlovna, one of Chaumet's most legendary clients, who commissioned pieces using that exact same craftsmanship back in 1899. In choosing the laces, Victoria didn't just select a beautiful tiara. She closed a 122-year loop, linking a bride with no inherited jewels to a legacy her new family once truly owned. Before we wrap up, if you've enjoyed peeling back the curtain on royal glamour tonight, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this one. So is the crown jewel myth a lie? Not quite. I'd call it more of a shared illusion, one that jewelers, royals and audiences all have an interest in maintaining. The sparkle is real. The ownership, more often than not, isn't.